Also controversial is Edward Snowden. We reported last week that Edward Snowden has been granted 1 year asylum in Russia. He has left the airport. He is no longer stuck in transit in this legal limbo. And this is something very, very interesting. The Wikipedia entry for Edward Snowden was changed from calling Edward Snowden a dissident to calling Edward Snowden a traitor. By itself, not very surprising, not very newsworthy. What is interesting is that the IP address that was used to make that change tracked back to the United States Senate. We know that this isn't uncommon, right? Government employees editorializing the Wikipedia pages of politicians, the Wikipedia pages of supposed enemies of the US. But what is interesting is that time is being put into this. In other words, at the US Senate, I'm not saying that officially Mitch McConnell or Chuck Schumer says, let's monitor the Wikipedia page of Edward Snowden and change it to make him look worse. That's not what I'm saying. But what I am saying, and what is just factually true here, is that the U.S. Senate, there are employees at the U.S. Senate which, without regard for the fact that their IPs are tracked and they can be, at least broadly speaking, identified not as individuals, are saying it is still worth it and it is still a good use of time to go in and make changes to a Wikipedia page. Does it speak to the value and power of Wikipedia? Does it change? Does it speak to the sentiment about Edward Snowden within at least some part of the American political establishment? I think the answer to both of those is probably yes. But here's the interesting thing: what does the Wikipedia page say now? The Wikipedia page now says Snowden's leaks have been a subject of great controversy. Some have referred to Snowden as a hero, whistleblower, or even a dissident, while others have described him as a traitor. I think that is, as Wikipedia strives to be, the unbiased way of characterizing. We are not saying he is any of these things, but he has been referred to in these ways. Now, there's kind of a couple of groups developing around what is Edward Snowden right now? What do we consider him to be? There's the crowd that sees everything the government does as bad, deceptive, or otherwise involving subterfuge. Those individuals tend to think of Edward Snowden as a hero. There are those who believe that everything the government does is great and that anybody who questions it in any way is unpatriotic. Those individuals tend to think of Edward Snowden as a traitor. Those, however, are on the extremes of the spectrum, I believe. I believe that basically most people fall into the category of believing that Edward Snowden is certainly a dissident at this time, and he acted in a way he believed was consistent with the description of being a whistleblower, although others may not agree that he blew the whistle, either because, number one, the things he blew the whistle on were kind of already known, or number two, because his intentions were other than to simply notify people of what is going on. So I think that it's fascinating that somebody at the U.S. Senate was making those changes. I think it's also interesting that we're starting to see traitor and hero fall to the extremes, and dissident / whistleblower seems to be where most people are at this point.